Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another Christian article, where tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are wrapping up with the penultimate of Chris's stresses articles of the Cwcism Quictionary, with what he refers to as slow in the minds. And we begin with three quotes from himself. I am sometimes retarded, Chris on himself. I'm possibly retarded, Chris on his Intellect Mumble Chat 9.5, and I'm retarded, Chris exposing Jeff, in his own words. Also, Chris, I do not feel comfortable associating with other autistic people, especially the non-high functioning. It would be like looking through a window to hell to me. You know what, Chris, I'll overview. I've heard you say so much smack for these last number of months. I'm not shocked, and I refuse to be shocked about that. However, you look very, very silly, Chris. That's all I'm going to say. Slow in the minds and slow-minded are Cwcisms that refer to developmentally disabled, cognitive delayed, crazy, and or generally unintelligent people other than Chris himself, of course. The term was first seen in a 1999 high school assignment about parental development, where Chris identified various factors that could cause newborn children to have slow minds. It also showed up in his school project, A Week with Christian Chandler. Slow in the minds hits a fine trifecta of points. 1. It displays Chris's arrogance, seeing as how it applies in so many cases of people, all of whom he considers slower than he. That's an understatement, that is. 2. It shows Chris's lip service attention to fitting into society. It sounds incredibly unbiased and is just a childish euphemism. 3. There's a delicious irony in Chris decrying students who are slow in the mind when his own mental aptitude is dubious, at best. In a number of responses from the mailbag, Chris has explained that he finds the mentally challenged, especially those with physical deformities, creepy, likening them to zombies. Wow. That's shit. They would probably do a better job at kicking your ass, Chris, than literally anyone else. I can guarantee that. In June 2013, when someone on the Quickie forum suggested, it's just like, I'm sorry, hang on, let's just go back and talk about that for a second. Physical deformities, as if Chris seems to think that they just do that of their own accord. And Chris somehow doesn't feel any guilty by saying that they are creepy. That's just... Chris, if you're, you know how many times Chris posting that wishing for people to sincerely like him, but then he will not do anything whatsoever that is likable. Yeah, this is why. In June 2013, when someone on the Quickie forum suggested that Chris date someone who was mildly mentally retarded, Chris replied, "Would you, in full honesty, full truth, in your right mind, at all date a special girl? How would you feel if you woke up next morning with droning, moaning, and blather coming from the face next to you?" Chris's bigotry extends to his fellow autistics, perhaps the very people who ought to be on his side, including me. He speaks in incredibly cruel and derisive terms about the various mental and physical problems that are thrust upon these innocent individuals, whereas he, as a self-proclaimed high-functioning autistic, is pure and clean. That sounds something like a white supremacist might almost say. Despite that, he seems to be barely consider low-functioning autistics human. Chris often styles himself as a spokesperson for autism. Making a stand against Asperger's syndrome in the non-existent conflict between autism and Asperger's. This delusion is made more apparent in the Wikipedia article on Asperger's. It has been suggested that Chris says these things to make himself look good, and also to complain that he should be receiving the care and attention that those with Asperger's receive. However, if he even thought for even 1 second exactly how he made him sound, then he would have backed out of this literally immediately. But when has Chris actually ever been reprimanded properly? You know, aside from being banned. from places. That doesn't do enough. That's not enough. Chris seems to interpret the high-functioning part of his diagnosis as a compliment, giving him the best of both worlds. He can blame any of his shortcomings on his autism, but still console himself with the fact that he's high-functioning, and therefore better than the slow in the minds. Used is by Chris. Did someone sneak through our neighborhood, watch and intrude our house just to put in a cameraman here to take you peep shots of you and me? Not only that, but Bubbles and Black Sonichu. And since when did Angelica did that? When did Mary Lee Walsh sell herself out? And when did Christian and Megan? Oh, but still they look so lifelike. Sonichu, those are hand drawings, not photographs. Sonichu is also slow in the mind, it would seem. I love the fact that Chris has to put a sigh in there as well. Chris's use of this term has evolved over the years. Early on, he pointedly distinguished between the slow-minded and himself, in late 2009 and onward. However, he began referring to himself as a little slow or sometimes slow, once he discovered he could use it as an excuse for his many failings, and there are indeed many. In a Week with Christian Chandler, Chris described to his peers on his school bus as slow in the minds. In sub-episode 6, when exploring the ecology of the jerk-cop, Chris noted that slow-minded people are susceptible to becoming Mary Lee Walsh's rent-a-cop slaves. He added that because he is, of course, not slow in the mind. He is immune to the hypno-gun that brainwashes the jerk-cops. Maybe, I was going to suggest maybe this is a bit like, you know how in Futurama, how Fry's brain length is so slow that those brain aliens can't take control of it because he has no frequency whatsoever? Maybe this is what Chris seems to think this all means. Chris Chan's public announcement featured, among other things, Chris attempting to correct the misconception that he is a slow-minded person. How well did that work out then? Because let's face it, by the time... In a December 2008 IRC chat, when asked to give an example of learning from his mistakes, Chris said, "When it was spelled out for me that a sign by my side made me look slow-minded, when clearly I am not." Then again, he still went and did it, and he did many of other things. Chris mentioned the same incident in a 2007 email to his old school teacher, Virginia Sanford. "I've later realized that it made me look slow-minded, the R word." Really naive. Conversing with his fans in Mumble Chat number 8, Chris claimed, for the record, I'm not slow in the mind. While mocking a legitimately mentally disabled fan of his YouTube channel, Chris said, "You're so naive and slow in the mind." In Casey Call number 5, Chris admitted that I'm a little bit slow sometimes. In Casey Call number 9, Chris referred to a fellow high school student as this one slow-minded individual named Tony, who just kept on making all the moanings and noises and whatnot. I hope Tony is not, didn't hear those words, because Chris, you do realize that people who are mentally disabled, they don't decide to do that. Some people do not have any choice. Some people are, whether it's through Down syndrome or whether it's through some other condition, they don't do it just because they want to make life difficult for no reason. Chris, now I'm really starting to feel it, because is that really your view of disabled people, Chris? That they're hideous just because, they have something wrong with them? Something that is perhaps beyond their control? Is that what you think of them, Chris? During the father call, Chris said, "I'll admit I have some slow-minded moments." Some slow-minded moments? No, Chris, you have every slow-minded movement. You don't think about anything before you actually do anything. In his Wikipedia article on Asperger's syndrome, Chris admitted that my mentality is sometimes slow. He always goes back to sometimes and some slow moments. While begging off from some of the difficult questions he faced in Alec Benson Lyric Hall number 9, Chris whined about how sometimes my mind's a little slow. And yet, again, like I said, he doesn't do anything to, improve himself, because he's 28 years old at this point of that phone call. He was 28 years and 1 day old. And he is literally, not developed or learned from any of this. And some say he literally never will. Likewise, in a July 2010 email to Jackie, he said, "I am sometimes mentally slow and don't get all of the details at once and such." This became a recurring theme in Chris's conversations with Jackie, as he repeatedly tried to use his slow-mindedness as an excuse. The 20th collection of emails has a few good examples. Talking about his high school days in the Lars call, Chris said, "Yeah, I got pretty much tormented for my autism and considerable slow-mindedness. That has happened to me before." Well, he just straight up, came out and went with it, which you might say, fair enough, he's admitting to it, but it doesn't make up for the fact that he's making fun of other disabled people as well. At their December, and he will use this at any point, to cover for the fact that things he knows he should be in control of. At their December 2014 bowling outing, Chris told Catherine and her cousin Al that the person responsible for the paperwork allowing him and his mother to move back onto 14 Branch Lane Court after the house fire was a senile slow in the mind. They should have... I wish he had burned that place literally just to the ground, just for saying that. Chris, you should... After the house, that was your fault in the first place, Chris. And I don't even know really what people will say, saying that Chris would not have had the mental capacity to know where to put things in the first place, and it was down to him, Bob, and Bob before that. But fuck me, Chris is an adult as well. He has as much responsibility for... You know what? I've got a better idea. I'm just gonna put this to the full thing. I'm gonna explode if I don't. It becomes very, very very clear the further I go into this. The more I'm just going to begin to realise that if Chris had absolutely no involvement on the internet whatsoever, he would have found ways to have completely screwed over his own life. Just because Chris has wasted his own life away, just falling back on excuse after excuse, not learning from anything. There shouldn't be an excuse for any one of us for, doing the exact same thing. I beg you people, literally just to, if there is anything to learn from this whole sorry business, is to, and I understand absolutely there are some things that, are beyond people's control. And there are some things that are beyond mine as well. I will concede that. But here's the thing. At no point in my life have I ever fallen back on autism. I've never said once in my entire life that you can blame my autism for that. At no point have I ever said that. Because it's simply not true. My autism is, have you guys ever heard me use the phrase that sometimes there is no good and there is no bad on this earth? Sometimes there are only consequences. And I think this is true. Very true indeed. And you pay the consequences for the choices you make. You know what? Whether it's because of troll influence or not, you have to take, responsibility and accountability for the life you live. It should be your life, not somebody else's. And one day people are going to look back along these videos and along the Wikipedia right here, long after Chris, is dead and buried, that we need to understand exactly not only how to stop this sort of thing from happening from both the trolls' perspective and also from Chris's, as well as people, you know, with autism who may have a difficulty understanding exactly how the world is as it is. So with all that being said and done, I hope you guys have enjoyed this article of slowing the minds, which, don't get me wrong guys, is a term I don't even like that much. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below, and I will hope to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, bye bye for now.